To do is to put some water in the pan. You can see how much pasta you've got. Because it's dried, it needs to cover the pasta and then some, because it's going to absorb some of the water. So I've put about 5 centimetres of water in there. I put it on a high temperature, a 6, and it's come up to the boil. I'm going to place my 100 grams of pasta. It can be any shape, and you'll notice that immediately all of the bubbles disappear. I'm going to give that a few moments until it comes back up to the boil, which it is now, and then once I'm confident it's boiling, I'm going to drop the heat down. I'm going to pop it in a 2, and I'm reducing that to a simmer. So I can see it's on a simmer now. It's not boiling too rapidly. I'm going to give that a little stir, because what can happen is the pasta can stick to the bottom of the pan, and I'm just going to leave that for 11 minutes. So press the minute button up to 11 and press start. Next thing I'm going to do then is to prepare the ingredients for my white sauce. There are 2 ways that you can measure out your milk and your dry ingredients. I'm going to measure out using the scales my dry ingredients to start with. So put a container on the scales, press the on button, and then make sure that it says 0 and G. That means it's measuring in grams. Okay. We want to weigh out 20 grams of butter, plus or minus a gram, and 20 grams plus or minus a gram of plain flour as well. Okay, 19, that's fine. We're going to pop that into the saucepan. Next thing we're going to do then is to measure out some milk. So our jugs all measure in millilitres. We want 200 millilitres, which this is the line here. It's probably easier to use the small jug for this job. And we're going to crouch down so our eyes are level with the edge of the work surface, and then pour the milk in until it is on the line. It's really important that we accurately weigh and measure our sauce ingredients, because if we have too much flour to the amount of milk, our sauce will end up too thick. And if we have too little flour to the amount of milk, our sauce might end up too thin. So this is 200 of milk and 20 grams of butter and flour. So notice I haven't put my sauce onto the heat yet. I'm going to wait until I'm not needing to do anything else, because the sauce will need my full attention when I get to it. Next thing we're going to do then is to grate the cheese. I've got 50 grams of cheddar cheese. I'm going to prepare my tomato. What I want for my tomato is just a few slices that I can put across the top for decoration. If you're struggling to cut into it because the skin is so shiny, just use the tip of your knife just to break into it, and then you can place your knife. You can do that again. Just break into it. A serrated edge knife can be a bit easier to use sometimes on tomatoes. I'm using my pasta again. It's been cooking for about 6 minutes, and that is what you're aiming for. That is what a simmer looks like. Time is going off now. I'm just going to silence that and check that my pasta is cooked. What we're aiming for is what we call al dente. It means with bite. So the best thing to do is to take a piece out, allow it to cool down, and then you can either bite into it and see if it's got bite, or you could cut into it. We're just wanting to make sure it's not raw right the way through. It is al dente, so I'm going to turn off the heat, take my colander over to the sink. I've moved the washing up bowl out of the way, and I'm going to carry it over and just empty the contents of the pan into the colander. Give it a shake. Just want to remove all of the excess water. And then I'm going to put it back into the pan, and I'm just going to pop it to one side, not back on the heat, because that's going to carry on cooking if I put it there. You could put it on a ring that wasn't turned on, but even better, popping it onto a pot stand, one between 2, so we know it's definitely off the heat. So this is the butter, flour and the milk. I've chosen a much smaller ring because I'm using my smaller pan this time. And I put it onto a 5, it'd be a 4 or a 5. Avoid using the larger ring because that's too big for the size of the pan. Once you start your sauce, you need to be in a position to stay with it all of the time, because we're going to keep whisking it with a bloom whisk the whole time. Okay, so we can see that our butter is now completely melted, but it hasn't come up to the boil yet. We stir it the whole time so that the flour doesn't sink to the bottom of the pan, because if it does, it comes into contact with the heat source and it will gelatinize and go into lumps. So we stir it continuously to make sure all of the mixture is getting equal heat. Notice as I'm whisking now, you can see that it's started to thicken up, and I noticed that it's starting to leave the marks from the whisk, which is a clue that it's starting to thicken. Once it comes up to boiling point, we know it's fully gelatinized. So I'm just going to stop whisking, and that is boiling. Can you see? Now that's going to boil and stick and burn onto the bottom of the pan if I'm not really careful. So I'm going to straight away drop the heat down to a 1. It's going to allow that to cook for 1 to 2 minutes, just to cook the flour. At this point, if you would like to add any seasonings, you can. You could add a little bit of mustard, which brings out the flavour of the cheese really nicely. Just a tiny tip on the end of the spoon there. It's not even a quarter of a teaspoon. Or you could use mustard powder, works quite nicely as well. I'm going to put a little bit of ground black pepper in mine also. You see it's still got quite a lot of heat retained in there now. I might just lift it off the heat. Let it cool down a bit. It is only on a 1. And then the tiniest bit of salt. Do be really careful if you're adding salt. We need to be careful how much we have. So just pour it into your hand first of all. The thing to add in is half of the cheese. Remember I put it into 2 piles, so I'm going to add 1 pile of 25 grams in. And just give that a stir until the cheese has melted. Take the pasta, which is now cooled down, and put it into our sauce, and then give it all a stir so that the sauce coats all of that macaroni. You could, if you made this again at home, add other things into it, some chopped ham, some cooked chicken, some sweet corn, or any other vegetables, just to give a little bit of variety in your diet or to add extra fibre or protein. Pour it into our oven-proof dish. If you don't have an oven-proof dish, I'd recommend that you add all of the cheese to the sauce, and you'll have to take it home in a plastic container. But we're using an oven-proof one. It's metal, so it can go under the grill. Now I'm going to add my tomato over the top. So I'm just going to arrange a few pieces across the top like this. And then I'm going to put the remaining 25 grams of cheese over the top. I'm going to turn the grill on next. First of all, I'm just going to open it up and take out the grill pan. You don't need to use that. We're going to turn the dial that says F above it round till we've got the 3 triangles at the top, and then this one goes round just to determine the temperature we want the grill to be. We're going to put it on 200. Now if we have a look inside the grill, there are 2 different heights that you can have the shelf. You need to choose an appropriate height for your tin. Now, if I put it on the top shelf there, luckily it's not hot yet, it's going to be quite close to the heat source. If I move that down to the bottom, it's going to be quite far away, but I'm really keen for it to not burn, so I am going to use the lower shelf. It's going to take a few moments, a couple of minutes to heat up, and then I'm going to put my mac and cheese in there to brown off on the top. You'll notice that I've operated the grill with the door open the whole time. I'm going to take my oven gloves, really carefully lift that out without catching my wrists on anything hot. Pop that onto a cooling rack. You can see that the cheese has gone golden brown, and I'm happy that is now ready. So now we need to cover the top, either with one of the lids, or you could cover your container with some cling film. Make sure you put your name on it so we know it's yours, and that's going to go in the blast chiller to the end of the day.